Hi, guys. We're here with Tommy Romero and Jessica Romero with Tommy's Legacy and Fanny's House. And I'm excited to share with you guys their amazing story, what their ministry does in our community, but more importantly, what God has you guys doing in this season of your life, which is powerful because I've seen you guys impact all kinds of men and women in our community. But like we always start this show, would you guys share something that you're really thankful for? And what's the struggle that you guys have right now, currently in your guys' lives?
I know for myself, well, for both of us, honestly, I think the biggest thing that we're grateful for is just all the lives that the Lord allows us to impact, all the people that we get to meet and we come across. But I think as of right now, I'm most grateful for when the Lord allows us to just slow down because we're always so busy. And our daughter's here visiting from the East Coast. We have her for 2 weeks.
We're going to put her on the camera.
So being able to slow down and have family time, I am so grateful for.
Oh, yeah. All right, Tommy, top that.
Hello. For me, what I'm most grateful for is to have a wife that's flexible with the timing, because I'm going 100 miles a day and she's right there with me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's tough for some women to endure through that. You know, there's days when she tells me, I'm done. That's it. Stop. We're done. We got to get away. And for the opportunities to be able to disconnect and the people God has surrounded us with to disconnect, you know what I mean? And the ministry continues flowing on. We can get away.
All right. That was good. All right. So now the other part of the question is, what's your biggest battle right now that you guys are facing? Could be personal, could be in the ministry. What's a battle?
I think for me, the biggest battle has always been watching him go 100 miles an hour. The biggest battle is definitely seeing my husband's heart and how invested he becomes in these men and women. And just seeing those late nights when he can't sleep because someone's going through something, or, you know, they're just heavy on his heart. Just seeing all the behind the scene things that people don't get to see. That's always the hardest part for me. But I know that the Lord made us for this, so we get through it.
All right, Tommy. I know nothing's hard for you, right?
No, you know, I'm going to get personal on this one. What's tough for me is we also have 2 kids still in their addiction. You know, and we able to reach all these other men and women, but not our own.
Yeah.
And have to process the, I mean, everyday life like that, knowing my kids are still out there in their mess on their choices.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, God, just get my 2 babies home.
Man, that's awesome. You know, for me too, I'm super thankful for something very similar. Actually, if you were watching the newspaper or the news, there was this guy who was being chased by the police. And when they stopped him, it was because he crashed into another vehicle. He jumped out of the car and pulled a slingshot out, and the police shot at him. Thank God they didn't hit him. But they gave him a good beat down. That was my older brother on the 3rd of July. And that is the truth, though. Like, I'm thankful he's alive, but man, I've been in the ministry a long time. And yes, it's hard to sit back and watch and go like, I can help all these people, but I can't get him, God.
Right.
Like, really? That's awesome. And, you know, in your guys' ministry, we're going to dive into that and what you guys do. I think sometimes that is one of the hardest things, is like we get to see all these people radically transformed. And then sometimes the closest people that we want to see transformed are not, you know, that's crazy. Thank you for sharing that. So what areas of our community, because most people don't know what Tommy's Legacy is or Fanny's House, what areas of our community are you guys reaching?
I would say everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, men and women come in from all sides, all different parts of Bakersfield. I would maybe mainly East Bakersfield.
Okay.
You know, but I've seen them come from Rosedale. I've seen them come from Oildale. I've seen them come from Tehachapi. I've seen them come from Utah. I've seen them come from Arizona.
Wow.
Modesto. Right now we have Modesto. We have Orange County. We have LA County. We have Bakersfield. We have them from everywhere.
What did they come in for?
Most of the time, it's drug and alcohol.
Drug and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, the people we help are the people that are struggling with addiction, and it's not always drugs and alcohol. Sometimes it's just unrighteous living. They wanna come in to learn to live better, and to become something else because they've been living with a lot of bad habits and things like that. So it's not always addiction, but the main people that come in is drugs and alcohol.
Drugs and alcohol.
Mhm.
And like right now, how good is the program doing? Like how many people have you guys been able to help so far, do you think? Just the estimate. I know.
Hundreds.
Yeah, I don't keep track of numbers.
Yeah, I know. I know, Tommy. I know.
I don't keep track of numbers. I know right now, I believe we have 24 men with us.
Wow.
24 men and four
Four
women.
women, yeah.
And out of the 24, 2 of them are actually graduates that are working, that are still living there.
That's
But we
awesome.
graduated a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of men and women had come through.
How do you guys, like, there's Teen Challenge, there's a bunch of programs out there that are running and helping people with addiction. How is your guys' program a little bit different? Everybody has their way, right? I mean, I could tell you a couple of ways that Tommy does it differently, but I would like you to tell him, because I really see something different in how those guys are around you.
I guess because we're small enough right now, and I thank God for that I can be more personal with them, that I can talk to them. We can get more personal with it. We live with them.
Wow.
I mean, our homes are in East Bakersfield, and our personal house is in Rosedale. I think we've been home 12 times in a year.
That's
what
wild.
I mean? Our whole life is dedicated to these men and women. To see men and women surrender their lives to Jesus Christ. We put them to the cross. It's nothing that we can do. We can't deliver and set them. We can't deliver them or set them free, but Jesus can.
Yeah.
And just going down there with them and helping them up and just loving on them.
That's good.
Giving them Jesus.
Yeah. And I think that's powerful, because you can give people in rehabilitation a lot of things. But if you miss Jesus, they ain't going to last very long.
Right.
Very long at all. So at Fanny's house, how do you reach the women?
Well, we're together. We all live under one roof. So the women are on the bottom floor, along with my husband and I, and the men are on the top floor. But we reach the men and women the same way, and it's simply through the love of Christ. It's it's us loving on them. It's us pointing them to the cross. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the biggest difference between us and other programs is that we truly are a family. And when I say that, not only do we live on site, but so do our home directors. So Fanny, she's our women's home director. Pat is my husband's right hand. And he's got a couple other leaders in the men's home, and we all live on site with them. So we do everything together. I mean, we eat, sleep, pray, we vacation together.
Work out.
Work out. Yeah. It really is a family. One of the things that I've heard from the beginning, and I mean from our first set of men that we opened the home with, is that they've never experienced the love of a mother and a father in the home at once. And so having us both there is truly what separates us.
Yeah, I was going to say that. If you guys didn't say that, I was going to say you guys treat those people like family.
Yeah,
and you guys are like their parents,
And
in a good way.
We love them, even through their mess.
Yes.
That's one thing we tell the men, you got to want this.
Yeah.
But man, when I told my wife, when I first started the home, I told God, give me all the ones that nobody wants.
Oh.
And so when they come to, my wife reminds me, remember you asked for that?
You asked for this. You asked for the worst.
Yeah. But man, I've seen the transformation, what God can do with the worst.
Yeah.
And the ones that they said there was no hope for. The ones that, the world gave up on, the families gave up on, And these men ain't angels. These men have issues, but man, when they surrender to Christ, watch what Jesus does with them.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay,
Amen.
so let's dive into that part, because you kind of already gave a little bit of the scoop. How did you guys go from living in Rosedale very comfortably to living in a facility with your family, your new family, all these people who are rehabilitating, who are chasing God now? How does that happen? Because I don't know any other pastors that voluntarily go and live in their treatment facility. That's just, if you're in other countries, maybe, but here in Bakersfield, that's like wild. It's wild to me.
So 2018, our son was murdered. And with the death of our son, I really felt the Spirit of God just telling me, man, open these homes and help these men break generational curses. My boy, he was caught up in his issues, and I know it was part of my curse that I passed down to him. And man, when my son died, I had to process it, but at the same time, I was like, man, that devil took a cheap shot at me. And what the enemy meant for evil, God turned for the good. Because I told him, God, what do I do? And he said, open these homes up and help these men get to the cross. I'll do the rest. And from there, we call it the facility, but before it was a facility where we have now, it was at our personal house. We've had up to 10, 11 men living in our personal house.
You started in your home.
We started in a house, and the gentleman needed his house back after 8 months. And then we took these men home with us for 3 years. And
your house in Rosedale.
Personal house, yeah.
Wow.
So my daughter's room, she's in college. There's 2 guys there. My son's room, there's 2 guys there. In our game room, we had 6 guys in there. In our living room, we'd have a guy on the floor at different times.
Wow.
And, you know, we knew, God told me it was going to cost. And I said, I'm in at all costs. And that was part of me quitting my job, moving out of my house for the first year, coming back at first 8 months, coming back home. And then my wife moving out for 2 years with the women. And that's being apart, but
hang on. We don't want to skip over that. So for 2 years, you weren't in the same house?
Actually, it was 3.5 years total that we were not living in the same home, because he went to live in the men's home when we first opened it for a year. And then he came back home, and that's when I opened the women's home. So we had a week together at home, and then I went to the women's home for 2.5 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't do it, man. It had to be God that told you that.
People tell us, how can you do it? And people even said, man, you were dumb for what you're doing. But what if it was your kids?
Oh, yeah.
What if it was your daughter? What if it was your son?
Yeah.
And it changes the game after that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
maybe because I tell you what, man, it was a little sacrifice to see, man, all these men and women change, surrender their life to Jesus.
Yeah.
I would do it again all over.
Yeah, and you know, it's uncommon in the United States for that to happen.
Right.
But if you go to other countries, this happens all the time, where the husband says, I'm going to go into the ministry, and they got to leave their family for months and then come back. So, but to do it in that way is wild. I mean, it's
only God.
Huge, only God could
it's
tell
only
you.
God, because there's no man could have called this for me. No man could have told me, go do this, go do that. It's only the Spirit of God.
Oh, yeah. It had to be God.
To quit my job, to raffle off a car to finance this, to live in different houses. You know, I mean, then she came home after 2 years, and the men were still there with us. And we all lived. I mean, it was great. We were a family. I mean, Thanksgiving time, we're on one big table. Christmas time.
Yeah.
It was a blessing.
That is huge. That's huge. So you guys are in another facility now, right?
So now we're blessed with a bigger building. So we're 10,000 square feet. It's huge. Right now, like I said, we have 24 men, 4 women. I think I still have maybe eight beds available. My wife, she still has 10 beds for the women.
Okay.
But my goal is not to fill this place up. It ain't the numbers. It was this quality of the man and woman. It's the Spirit of God in them. Because we can have a bunch of numbers, but if you're not reaching these men and women, what are we doing?
Right.
So I'm not trying to fill it. I'm not like, I can't wait to fill this place up. It's a lot of work with that many people.
So if somebody, like you said, you have a couple beds that are available for the women. So if somebody has a friend or a family member, how do they get their family member into this program? How would they do that?
So for the men and women, it's the same, and they would just give us a call basically. And we always ask that the person that wants to come into the home, that they give us a call. So they would call me, or they would call Fanny, call my husband for the men. But they give us a call because we want to first speak to them over the phone, because we want to hear their heart, number one. And then we want to share our heart, and we want to make sure that it's a fit for both sides, because like my husband said, we're not about filling beds. You know, I have 10 beds available, but that doesn't mean I'm going to take the first 10 women that call me in, because I also have to take in consideration the women that are currently there, the women who have given up everything to come in and surrender their life and ask God to help them and to change their life, you know. So we don't want to just bring anyone in. We want to make sure that, you know, it's a fit for both sides.
So it's a phone interview.
Yeah.
process.
So we do a phone interview first. And if everything goes well there, we invite them to come to church service, because that's what they're going to get the whole year with us. You know, they're going to get the word of God. And so we invite them to come and sit through church service. And after that, we sit with them personally and we talk to them there and if God moves and says yes, we take them in.
That's awesome. So that, it's just God saying yes or no at that time.
Right.
That's good. I mean, it's a good way to keep your house ordained.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you could easily bring a bunch of people in to get numbers or whatever, like you say, but that would be horrible because if they're not ordained to be there, it's not going to work, right?
And it's uncomfortable for everybody else in the house. You have somebody that doesn't want to be there, and you have guys that want to be there. It's tough.
Yeah. I know we go to a facility too, and we minister the gospel. You can always tell the guys who are just there because they have to be.
Yeah.
They don't want to be. They have to be, and they're not going to get the benefits of what the Holy Spirit's doing in that place. But when they want to be there, totally different story.
Yeah. And we get those people that just really need a place to stay. They're not really interested in the program. And for those, and that's why we do the phone interview first. And for those people, we still refer them out to other places. So even if our program doesn't fit you, we still refer you and make sure that you do get the help that you need.
Wow. So you guys jumped real fast on that story. So did God minister to you that vision of this program before you lost your son?
I've always knew what the power of a men's home can do, because I was in a men's home in 1997, but it just never really pushed to open a home. I mean, I was working a full-time job. My wife was working. My daughter was in college, so I wasn't really looking to open a home. But when my son was murdered, and I remember driving back from burying him in Vegas, it was like, man, my wife was asleep, and I just felt that tug, man, and me and God, we just sort of talking back and forth, and it was like, okay, here we go. And it was only the Spirit of God, because I know the enemy ain't going to put those thoughts in my head. I know what I had been battling all week before this happened, and it was only God. And I said, God, if this is from you, you open every door. Ooh. And every door opened, every door. But it had to take something on my part, and that was to walk through it. That was to trust him. That was to get out of the boat and get to going.
Wow.
And as I did that, man, that house was there. The finances were there. The 501c3 number, everything started lining up. Mm-hmm. Everything fell in place. And even my boss, he was like, what are you going to do? I just came back from a training. I was actually in Minnesota when I got the phone call my son was murdered. And he was like, what are you going to do? And I said, man, this is what God called me to do. And he was behind it the whole time.
Wow. Who is that guy?
Steve Holloway.
Steve Holloway.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. So who are some of the other key people who have helped you through this whole journey for you guys' house? I know there's a bunch.
Yeah,
there's a huge dinner that they have in December, right?
We normally have it in October. This year will be November 16th.
November 16th. Mm-hmm. So
yes.
Don't miss that. It's the Tommy's Legacy Dinner in Fanny's house. It is a huge fundraiser, but it's also a great time to witness the testimonies of what God is doing in people's lives. I love hearing those stories of the people who get up there who are graduating and what God is doing. I mean, that's a huge... Collins Reimer invited me to be there, and I was blown away. I didn't even know what Tommy's Legacy or any of that. I'd never heard of it, and that night I heard everything I needed to hear to go. That's awesome.
Did you know he was there?
No.
Yeah, I was sitting right next to Collins.
Yeah,
like literally right next to him.
So key players in our thing is first God.
Amen.
First God, but Greg Gibbons. Bill Northrup, Kent Jones, Collins Reimer, Les Piercy, influencers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Our board. We have a working board. They put their foot in everything.
Eloy Romero, Mike Romero, Fanny Hernandez. Mm-hmm. These guys, these men and women had came beside us. And one thing about me is, if you're going to be around me, we're going to speak life into each other. I don't need no negativity. And I trust God in everything I do, and everybody around me. We got to have faith and move the same way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because I need to believe for you, like I need you to believe for me.
Oh, that's so good. Say that again.
I need you to believe for me, like I need to believe for you.
That's good.
You know what I mean? That's how, and that's one thing, even when we got our building and our church, people said we were crazy. And I said, that's why you'll never see it until it's over. Watch what God does.
Yeah.
We said it's going to take 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We were done in 13 months. Yeah, and I remember I asked Greg, how did we do it so quick? And he says, we never factored in God's timing. Oh. It was man's timing. You know what I mean? I seen men come together, you know what I mean, and put their hands to the plow. And for those that couldn't work with us, man, they were praying for us. They were signing checks over there. Man, God provided everything for it.
That's
For these
wild.
men to have, man, everything brand new. I mean, more furniture found out what we're doing.
Yeah.
They donated 52 mattresses,
What?
brand new. This man, and we'll deliver them to you.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Everybody came together. You know, we couldn't even find racks. I mean, that many beds. Delano Prison ended up donating them all to us.
That's so
And
crazy.
But the enemy meant for evil, God turned for good. People say, Tom, those are prison beds. I said, they are. And I said, men that had condemned life terms slept in those beds. Now men that have life with Christ are here.
Eternal
Oh,
life.
that's so
Yes.
cool.
It's only God, man. What the enemy meant for evil, God turned for good.
Yeah, you know, I was reading in the book of Ephesians today, and it talks about the armor of God, right? And this is something very close to my heart, that people take that armor for granted. They think that we're just there to take hits, right? Like God give us armor so that we can take the hits of the enemy. But armor is not just for defense, it's for an offense. And I think that is the true walk. Like you guys have taken a massive hit by losing your son, right? He's in heaven, thank God.
Mhm.
But now you're going on the offense.
Right.
And now you're taking from the enemy the things that he really wants to keep. But you said, no, I'm on the offense because of how hard you hit me. I'm
Right.
hitting you back now.
That's what it is. And that's my goal, is to teach these men how to spiritually fight.
Mm.
We don't need to bar fist up. You don't need to isolate yourself. Man, you get on your knees and watch God do what he does.
Yeah.
And to teach you guys how to spiritually fight, I was telling somebody right now at a graduation, I said, man, I deal with a lot of men from prison, and all they know is the push. I said, man, if they start pushing the right way for Christ,
Ooh,
there ain't no backing. These guys don't back up.
yeah, I
You know what
love
mean?
it.
And that's when I was like, man, let's get to moving. And once these men see your heart and that you love them, and it's a pure love, and that you will be there with them, man, they won't back up.
Yeah, I love people who have experienced violence. I mean, I got to be real honest, because people who have never been punched in the mouth or have punched people in the mouth, they don't understand the spiritual principle of being violent. And Jesus compares it. He says, the violent take it by force. And he's talking about how the angels, they make war for the kingdom. And there's so many people who are saying they're following Christ, but they're not violent at all.
Right.
They're very passive. In fact, they
Mhm.
find all the forgiveness, they find all the love and joy verses. But when it says take authority
Mhm.
over principalities, rulers of
Yes.
darkness, they're like, oh, that's cool. And then they turn the page, but no violence.
Right.
But a guy who's punched somebody in the mouth, or a woman, she knows, like, oh, I know exactly what this verse means. I'm taking it back. I'm taking
Right.
it back. And, you know, with that, like, what are some of the hits that you see that are happening in that community? Because people are being affected by drugs, but what are like some of the biggest drug problems? Alcohol, is it drugs or alcohol that you guys are seeing that are really affecting the community right now? Like
Fentanyl.
fentanyl?
Fentanyl and
Wow.
alcohol. You get a lot of calls from fentanyl. And
Yeah.
where we live, we're on Baker and Niles. So you see them walking up and down. And it's no longer the older generation, it's young.
Oh, yeah.
These kids are young. I mean, they got to be, man, in high school. I mean, if not, some of them even in junior high. And it's like, man, I was telling somebody today, you know what I mean, back in the 90s and the 80s, we were dealing with heroin and meth. Now we're dealing with fentanyl, and nobody knows what to do.
Yeah.
We don't know, man. They're giving us stuff to bring these people back now, which is a Narcan. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's getting that bad to where here, give this to them.
Give them another drug. Bring them back to life.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's fentanyl it's a whole different kind of detox none of us are familiar with. You know what I mean? We really don't know not much about it. And just when you think you know something about it, there's another twist to it.
Yeah.
So we're in alcohol. Alcohol is such an easy, I mean, it's legal, but it's still, man, destroying lives.
Yeah.
You've seen, I talked to a lot of men that have walked away from their families behind alcohol. You know, and it's like, man, you know, didn't realize how big alcohol really was.
What would you say to somebody who says, well, fentanyl is pretty clear. You use fentanyl, you're addicted to fentanyl. It's like you shouldn't be using it. You could die, right?
Right.
But alcohol is like the one thing that people say, well, I'm not really addicted. I'm a casual drinker. What would you say to that person who says that? Because there's a lot of people, I know myself, I was addicted, but I would use that line all the time. I'm a casual drinker.
Well, then let's stop for a casual month and let's see how you do with it. You know what I mean? Let's just
Yeah.
stop. You know what I mean? And there is people that can. I mean, I was a drinker, but there'll be days I just say I'm done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But let's stop. You know what I mean? Because someone
That's
gets in
good.
denial, they ain't gonna try to stop. I mean,
Yeah.
give 30 days. Let's see how casual you really are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or let's ask your kids how your casual drinking is.
Oh, that is
And
good.
that's where you kind of go home with it. Because
Yeah.
the wife will cover up. A kid doesn't know better and just will spill the beans on the dad.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That's really true. So, Fanny, as you're like do you see a difference in what the women are dealing with as far as addiction than the men, or is it about the same?
Jessica.
Oh, Jessica,
But in
sorry,
Fanny's
sorry,
house. No,
sorry.
I know what you mean. No, it's I think with the women we don't really see a lot of the alcohol. To be honest, I think in the women we see a lot more of the drugs. Meth is a huge thing, and also prescription drugs.
Ooh.
Prescription drugs is still a big thing, and so I think with the women it's more of that. It's a little harder with the women. You know, we have a lot of emotions. Women have children that they need to get home to. Yeah. I'm saying it because I am a woman and I know it. But, so it is a little harder. You know, we have, not to say we have our share of responsibilities, and a lot of that is our children. And so what we see with a lot of the women that come in through addiction is that they do have children in different places. And so it's hard to get them to stay for that full year commitment because their mind is just getting home to the children. It's not fixing the addiction. It's not getting free of the addiction. But yeah, I would say those two things are still
That's a big
things.
difference.
Yeah,
But
it is.
The thing for women, my opinion is, for a man that's on drugs or alcohol, they usually go to jail and dry up. I mean, they get sober for a few months, a few years, whatever it is. But for women, they last a lot longer out there on those streets. And it seems like their mind is getting further and further out there because a woman can get money a lot more different ways than a man can.
Yeah.
And they're able to stay out there longer.
Especially if a guy's ugly. He
ain't getting nothing.
He ain't getting nothing. He's ugly and lazy. It's not going to work out. That's true, though.
The women we see when they come is to know their worth.
Yeah.
Because they have been ran down. You know what I mean? And that's a tough place to be for a girl, especially a young girl. And to know their worth, man. Like, man, to know who their father really is. Yeah. And it's not the man that's abusing them. It's the father up here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
good.
to show them a pure love that there's nothing required.
Yes, I think that's the biggest thing that the women in our home receive. And you said it earlier when you talked about the pure love, for the men. I know with the women that we see that all the time, just having that connection with my husband and I, but mainly, when they have the connection with you, not, getting that love without having to give something in return. Thought I turned that off. Giving that love without having to give something in return it's a huge deal to them. And I think that's part of what helps them to know their worth. And so that love that you give.
That's good. Rehabilitation it's a wild thing to try to take on. And I mean, the drugs that you guys are facing, it is like that though. Some people think it's okay because they are walking through life and it's kind of celebrated. For me, I see alcohol as like a huge pandemic in some of the most, how would I say it, active people. Like they can get away with it because it's celebrated, but they are severely addicted. I mean, when you look at hand sanitizer and think if I run out of alcohol, I could drink that, you're addicted.
We had one of those.
Yeah. But sometimes those people will be like, no, I'm still a casual drinker.
There's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah. I'm like, no, nobody looks at hand sanitizer like that normally. Okay. But that is wild that happens, but it happens everywhere too. I think even in the church, we forget that there are people addicted to prescription drugs or alcohol or even caffeine. I mean, caffeine's like a huge thing. It is the most used stimulant on the planet. in the USA. Abused, not just used, it's abused. We don't have rehabs for that yet. But that's a huge impact. So give me some of the announcements of something that is coming up. I know the dinner. Is there anything else that you guys have coming up?
No, we actually just wrapped up our 4th of July booths. Tommy's Legacy and Fanny's House. We have 2 huge fundraisers every year that help sustain our operating costs. And that is our 4th of July booth. So every year we have 3 4th of July booths that we run from the 1st to the 4th. And that was a huge success this year.
Praise
Our
God.
graduates and the homes, they come and they help run these booths. And so the next thing is definitely going to be November 16th, 2024 at Hodel's Country Dining. We do our annual it's a Tommy's Legacy and Fanny's House banquet fundraiser and graduation. So this is where we graduate the men and women who have graduated that year. Like you said, they give testimonies. We have a nice sit-down dinner. We have a silent auction. We have speakers and dignitaries that come. And so it's a beautiful time that we have together. And so that's the next thing.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't win anything at the auction. I tried. People they move fast on some of that stuff. I kept putting money and they're like, boom, it just kept going up. I was like, praise the Lord. It wasn't for me. But is there anything that you would like to encourage? Like if somebody needs to call you guys to try to get in, what's the phone number that you guys want to put out there for the people to call?
So the phone number they would normally call is my husband's, and that's 661-490-2233. So we ask that the men give him a call. For myself, for the women's home, it's 661-900-0120. And of course, if they call either of us for either, we can direct them to the other person.
And we'll put that in the comments if you missed that phone number. Oh, it looks like Mike Harvey is on it. And I want to thank our producer, Mike Harvey, for being on it today. He is working hard. I also want to thank our sponsors, Covenant Coffee. They're doing some amazing things with coffee and ministry as well with fostered youth and youth that are at risk. So thank you, Covenant Coffee. And if they want to find info on the fundraiser, where should they look that up?
That will be going up on it's not up there yet, but it will be going up this coming week on our website, which is tommyslegacyinc.com. And you can find out any information about the men, the women, and about our church.
All right. Well, thank you, Jessica and Tommy Romero, for coming in. And I'll throw you on. Want to come say hi?
She's shy.
And their awesome daughter for being here. And thank you guys for watching. Have a blessed week. We will see you in 2 weeks with Scott Garcia, Pastor Scott Garcia. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Woo.